Cook's story is well known to all Australians and especially Victorians. Now, since the ICook Foods story first came to light in 2019, Ian has been at constant war with the Andrews government. And Ian, earlier this year, entered politics and nominated as an independent candidate in the safe-held seat of Mulgrave, the very seat that Daniel Andrews holds. Well, while Ian Cook failed to unseat Andrews after being wildly predicted that he would come close to winning, instead, he didn't. And join us to discuss his decision to nominate as an independent. And what happened is the Informer's, we're going to claim him as our own, the Informer's Ian Cook. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Now, so much of Victoria got right behind you, Ian. It was a classic David versus Goliath battle. And to be honest, I, like everyone else, thought that you had a fair chance of having a win here. What happened and why do you think you didn't win?
First of all, when we set out, we knew that it was a David-Goliath struggle, and we knew that the likelihood of success was not very high. What we found as we got into the campaign was that there was a lot of latent anger about the Andrews government, the lockdowns, corruption, all sorts of different issues that came up. In terms of where we are at, we always knew that I wouldn't get enough primary votes just to beat Andrews on primary. It's too safe a Labor area. But what we found was that, and by the way, there are still votes to be counted as you and I speak. We don't know the final result. There's a couple of things about that. One is it looks like with preferences, which we always knew we would need, we've actually turned Mulgrave into a marginal seat. So you can't be unhappy with that. I couldn't have spent another hour on polling booths every minute that they were open, pre-poll and then on polling day. We were there until they closed the doors, talking to people, etc. And we did get a huge support. Now, on polling night, what they did was they made Michael Piastrino, the Liberal, they made him the number 2 candidate. So they actually preferenced my votes, which actually inflated Andrews' votes, because a lot of Labor voters voted for me but preferenced Andrews second. So they did their own preferencing, and good on them for doing it. It means they understand the system. That's great. When the VEC was forced to turn that around, and remember, none of that turnaround has been scrutinised by us. So we just have to accept what they're telling us. But it pushed my vote up. It meant that on a 2-candidate preferred basis, we with preferences got the highest vote ever in Mulgrave for for a non-Labor candidate. So that's what they were telling me. So you can't be unhappy with that. I mean, we swung a huge number of votes. Did we swing enough? Who knows? What we do know is that the Electoral Commission have also said that once they've counted to 51% of the total available votes, if Andrews is in front on primary, they're not going to count anymore. And I'm thinking, hang on a sec, this is a preferential voting system, which is compulsory. The whole point about it is to fire out all the preferences so everybody knows where they were, and give you future statistics and other issues that are very important. Some of the things the VEC say they're going to do are very strange. I think what we need to get out to people is your vote counts, and they should count and preference your vote. If they're just going to do first past the post, then change the system. But if you have a preferential system and you tell people that is how we vote, then, as I say, make their vote count and count their vote.
100%. And now, last I looked, you were at about 17% in the primaries, which I think, I'm not sure, would be one of the most successful independent candidates in this election, and a huge one historically. You've got to be happy with that as well, surely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you go on the website now, I think it's up at 21 or 22%. So for a primary vote, that's very good. The other independent parties, minor parties, and obviously the Libs, that's where that vote has tanked, which is unfortunate. If that vote had held up, and my vote held up, then anyway, you know, if ifs and ands, we will be asking for the count to be done properly so that we all know exactly what the figures were. We know that we have given Andrews a real fright. We also know that on the day that he stood and took and took the victory speech, his wife said he had won convincingly. There was only 8% of the vote counted, according to the VEC, when that happened, which means you had a premier taking, calling his own victory, or his wife's calling it for him. He's standing up on the podium and saying, I'm the new premier and accepting for the Labor Party when his own seat hadn't been finalised.
Mm.
So, you know what, it's the old story. Andrews has started every political tenure he's had, he has started with a lie.
Yeah. Now, he's entering his third term as premier, and the coalition have gone backwards even further. The Greens and Independents have fared pretty well, and you're requesting a recount of the votes. All of this stuff needs to come out. But now that you've been through the process as an independent, and I have as well, Ian, we can safely say, I think, between us, that if ever anything is in need of a inquiry or a reformation, is our electoral system, because it's basically a game of keepings off everyone except for the majors.
Oh, absolutely, Michael. And I think that is something very important for the people of Victoria. Andrews rigged the electoral system, right, by changing the Act. You know, and that Act disadvantaged independents big time. You know, we had people who had come to us right in the beginning and said, you know, we really want to support your campaign, Ian, and they wanted to throw a lot of money at it so that I could do major TV advertising and other things to get the story and the message out across the electorate. And that we're unable to do that because the electoral laws prevented it. But they don't prevent the majors, and in particular, the Labor Party. They can get any amount of money they like from the union movement.
Mm. There are even some anomalies that I found as an independent, and you would have been the same. We're allowed one A-frame at the pre-polls and at the polling stations. They're allowed 2 A-frames and 4 advertising billboards. Now, explain to me why there's that anomaly, why there's that disparity between independents can have 1 and the major parties can have 6. Why does that exist?
Well, what they explained to me was, oh, well, that's because the major parties have people in the upper house. And you say, really? Well, because when you actually looked at what the booth that I was on, you go and have a look what the Labor Party's got there. They weren't advertising anything for the upper house. It was just Labor ads, and they get 6 of them, and we get, as you say, 2. It's effectively 2 core flutes, 60 by 90.
Yeah, one A-frame.
You've got 1 each side. Then you're done and dusted. We actually just put 2 A-frames with only 1 board each, so we can have 1 at least at each end where people were coming in. All these anomalies that trot through are just designed to make it more difficult for an independent, and it is. I look at what we had to do to get the result we got. If it hadn't been just for the enormous support that we get around Victoria and around Australia, we couldn't have done anywhere near what we did.
Mm. Now, I want to talk about that support, Ian. It made me quite emotional seeing the amount of support you got, knowing what you've been through. How did it affect you and your family, seeing that level of support and encouragement coming through?
You know what? That was wonderful. All I can say is thank you to everybody out there who has supported us. It energized us. It made us feel better. And my wife and I are sitting there, yes, sort of slightly emotional, but you're sitting there and saying, hey, we're not alone. There are lots of good people. And I've also heard horror stories of other small businesses and what happened to them during lockdown. And that is sad. So, yeah, campaigning takes a toll. I mean, I got halfway through an interview with Channel 9 at one stage, and something the reporter was, Tony Jones, asked me. For some reason, it just clicked in my brain, and it took me back to a couple of the trigger points, which I avoid, because what happened to us was pretty awful. And there is some stuff you just say, block it away. Otherwise, you do end up emotional. But it all hovered around the fact that he said, so what happens on Saturday, win, lose or draw? And I said, we got to Saturday night, exactly as I said in that interview, knowing we could not have done any more. We did everything we could think of doing. I spent every hour on those pre-poll. Those pre-polls, they were 3 12-hour days. All the rest were 9 hours, except for the Friday in the middle, which was an 8-hour day. Standing on concrete, rain, hail, and boiling sunshine. We had the whole lot. And I had shifts of volunteers. So there was always about 10 of us. I had shifts of volunteers turning up all the time. And it was just, it was fabulous. But I was the one that had to be there the whole time to shake hands and say hi. And we did it. So I can't have done any more. We had a huge amount of support. We, as I said before, looks like we've turned it into a marginal seat, or at least reduced his standing substantially. He can't imagine that he is there with the total love of all of the people of Victoria. He's just got a little bit better than half, and he has damaged a lot of people and polarised politics in Victoria. And I really fear for Victoria's future.
Yeah, and I keep emphasising, we've done a lot of interviews today, but people keep saying to me, well, I don't know anyone who voted for Labor government. You're twice as likely to encounter somebody who didn't vote for them as what you are. So we've got around 35%, so 3.5 out of every 10 Victorians voted for him. The rest didn't. So it's hardly an emphatic win, but it's the system we have, and we have to accept it. So the next question, Ian, is where to from here? What's next for you?
Well, basically going back to what I was doing before. So I have to go back to the real job, which is to help Ben with doing what we've been doing, using some of our IP and making sure that happens, because obviously we need an income. We've still got a couple of big legal battles to go, and they're not cheap. So yeah, we're going to do that. But I have offered to anyone who wants that I'll happily come and speak on the issues of corruption anywhere with anyone. If people want to hear it, if you like, from the horse's mouth. And if I can assist organisations by speaking and by talking and keeping the Victorian public aware of what's going on. As I say, it's not just about ICook Foods. It's about the kid that got hit by the bike. The kid on the bike that got hit by the Andrews car. It's about red shirts. It's about security, the quarantine and the security firm. It's about so many, misuse of public money for campaign advertising, all of these things. They really, he might have got back in, however that happened, but we need to make sure that we hold him to account, because there is a big proportion of Victoria who are very worried, and they're very concerned. The level of debt Victoria is now going to go into if he does what he says he's going to do. These are serious issues. And Michael, they're not issues that are probably even going to play out for you and I, but our kids and our grandkids are the ones that are going to be shaking their heads saying, how do we pay this off?
Yeah. Now, and you've got youth on your side, like I do. Would you have another crack in 4 years' time?
I would like to see what the political situation in Victoria looks like. I'm going to have to move between Victoria and another state because of what we're doing, because we had to get our stuff out of there. I never wanted a career in politics. If I could make a difference, then I'll talk about anything. But I think at the moment, let's just, have wagons ho with what we're doing. Let's keep people just through things like what you and I are doing today, Michael. Make sure people are aware of the reality, aware of the evidence, aware of what is happening in Victoria.
Yeah. All right. Oh, Ian Cook, I'm extremely proud, and I don't mind admitting, watching you interview on Channel 9 where you choked up, made me choke up, because I know all too well of what you, your family, your employees have been through, and extremely proud to call you a friend.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome, and thank you.